boys? Creatives, baby. Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another absolute banger of a video. And in today's video, we're going to be walking through exactly how to effectively decide what ads you should test next. So you've probably come into this video, and actually really quick before we dive in, who am I and why am I qualified to teach this? Well, if you're a new person to the channel, my name is Anthony Camacho. I've been in growth and performance marketing for the last 7 years. I've helped several brands in the 9-figure range, 8-figure range, scale brands from 70K a month to $1 million a month. I basically helped these types of brands, and I've scaled my own dropshipping business to over $1 million in its first year. Do exactly what I'm gonna teach you in this video, which is decide which ads do you actually make next. And I've put out a ton of content. A lot of dropshippers have put out a ton of content. You need to be testing creative. You need to test 50 fucking ads every single week, right? But they don't actually teach you like how to actually decide what ads you should test next. Or they'll say, oh, you know, it's all about the angles. It's about the angles. Well, but they don't ever give you an actual systematic way to go from sitting at your desk with no idea what to do, no ideas, to fully built out ad leveraging angles with different formats and things like that. So the purpose of this video is to give you the tools and the system and the framework to be able to make that decision of what ad you should test next as effectively and simply as possible. So without wasting any time, let's jump straight into the video. Now, creative strategy, as most of you guys know, and the ability to consistently produce new winning ads is the backbone of your ad account. It's the primary lever or lever, however you say it, that you can pull to get better performance from your ad account. And a creative strategy flywheel, and this is a concept I'll be introducing to you, okay? Creative strategy flywheel is a system for building a repeatable and sustainable process for performance ads, especially if you're using cost caps, which is what I teach for beginners to minimize your downside. More often than not, your campaigns are not going to spend. And this is a good thing because if you're a beginner, you don't have a ton of money to be throwing and shelling out on product tests. You need to protect your downside, and you need to make sure that Facebook only spends when it can make you a profit. Well, the downside is that that's a very strict rule for Facebook to follow. And if you wanted to follow that, and if you wanted to actually be able to spend, then that means you need to produce as many ad creative concepts as possible to give Facebook the best chance of spending. You can think of it as almost the more creatives that you put out, the more shot attempts that you have. So if you know basketball, right? If it's like a 3-point contest, imagine if you only had like one row, you only had the first rack to hit like 80% of shots made. Or imagine if you had, you know, the entire court, right? The more shots that you can take, the more points that you can score essentially. However, it's important. You're not just throwing up crap at the wall, hoping something sticks, right? You need to craft your ads intentionally with specific angles and formats you're testing. So this flowchart and system that we're going to cover in this video is going to help you to answer that question. What ad do I test next? Because there's so many different ways you could go about it, and it can be confusing. It can be overwhelming. So this is a video that's going to teach you how to systematically make that decision and then go on to execute on the actual concepts themselves. So follow very closely. All right. Now, before we dive in, I want to leave you with a quote from Cameron Bush, head of advertising at Hexclad. For those of you guys that don't know Hexclad, they're currently a company that does, their projected revenue for 2023 was $350 million. It's probably $500 million at this point. You might have seen them because they have a partnership with Gordon Ramsay. It's probably the largest celebrity endorsement in the kitchen space by far, with Gordon Ramsay being arguably the most famous chef of all time. At least, you know, in the public space and in the mainstream media. I'm not here to debate the top chefs of all time from, you know, people in the kitchen space or whatever, or the chef space, culinary arts, whatever. Cameron Bush says, you can't test creative for just 7 days or once every 2 weeks. It's a continuous process that reveals crucial elements leading to any brand's continued growth. So take it from a guy who's currently running the marketing and advertising for a company that's doing $350 million in advertising, right? These guys are doing $350 million as is. And even they are not letting off on the creative, right? They're testing multiple batches of creatives, 20, 30, 40, 50 ads every single week continuously. This is not a process where you just test ads and then you forget to test, right? We test up until a certain point so we can get the type of performance out of our ad account that's going to scale. And then from there, The second we can't scale further with our current portfolio of ads, we go back and we start creative testing. But you need to constantly be testing, and especially if you're in the beginning phases where you're just trying to get something that works, you're trying to make those first few profitable sales, then the best thing that you can do is overload the algorithm with as much creative volume fueled by evidence-based market research and angles to get the kind of performance that's going to allow you to scale and hit those first few sales and eventually make your way to $1,000 a day in sales. Okay. So the creative strategy flywheel from a glance is essentially a process where we do the research, ideation, which is coming up with concepts based on the research. Then we actually do what's called briefing, which is basically outlining the creative direction. So what format do we want to use? What avatars do we want to use? Things like that. Then we create the assets. Then we launch the assets. Then after they launch, we review the performance. Are there things we should do more of? Or are there things that we should do less of? That is it. Research, come up with ideas, come up with like the action steps to create the ideas, create the content, put it into the ad account, see if it does well. If it does, do more of that. If it doesn't, do less of that. Very simple. So when deciding or when basically trying to figure out what ads you should make next, you start here at step number 1, which is deciding on the angle. Quote from Meredith Hill. Full transparency, I have no idea who Meredith Hill is, but to me, this is one of the greatest quotes of all time, especially in marketing. When you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. And what that essentially says is you need to get hyper specific. If you want to create a message that resonates enough with someone to get them to actually take action and trade their hard-earned money and dollars that they spend 40 hours a week earning and to give it to you, the dropshipper, well, you better damn sure make sure that you create a hyper-targeted specific message and you know exactly what to say to her, to that person, to get them to convert. So before we begin the ad creation process, we decide on the angle. And the angle is the approach we take to present the product to the customer in a way that compels them to buy. So it's just like if you can't just get on the road and start driving, right? You need to think of a destination first and then you drive. But you don't drive aimlessly, not knowing where to go. Okay. So the angle is what gives our creative strategy and it gives you the central focus of the ads that you're going to create. So we start angle. It's like the what, right? Like, what do we want to say, right? What messaging are we going to use? And the angle can be based on so many different things, but my favorite starting points are the value propositions, the benefits, the pain points, or the problems our target audience is facing. And a clear angle should give you a single compelling idea to build your creative around. And instead of trying to communicate everything about your product to everyone in your total addressable market, you focus on creating a hyper-targeted message for one specific person, and then you replicate that across multiple types of people and avatars. So you find the one message that works for that one specific person, and then you just do more of that and you stack that. And that is how you build an ad account that scales like crazy. So selecting the angle. Now, when I'm selecting angles and when I'm thinking of angles, these are my starting points, right? I'm looking at value propositions. I'm looking at mass desires. I'm looking at benefits, features, pain points, purchase prompts, desired outcomes, failed solutions, and objections. These are all tangible, measurable things in your research that you can build an angle around. There are other ways to build angles. You don't have to limit yourself to just these, but I like to start here because it gives me at least a concrete foundation of tangible ideas and information from which I can select an angle that I want to build the rest of my creatives around. Now, if you're wondering, Anthony, where do I get access to all that information? It looks like a lot. Well, it's actually not. And if you've seen my other videos, you should be familiar with the audience one sheet. And as you can see, if you do your proper research and you use ChatGPT, again, I won't go through that in this video. I have several videos on that on my channel. You should know all answers to all of those things. And on top of that, you should have evidence of how frequently they occur in the reviews. This tells you which ones are more important because they show up more and which ones are less important because they show up less. Or we could think of it also as the ones that show up the most are the ones with the largest audience size because more people are talking about them. So, these angles, while they might be, or these things here, while they're said less, they're still things that you want to go after because just because the audience is smaller doesn't mean they'll convert any less. Okay, so these are your starting points. And every single one of these, if you're doing the research, right, you should have a few different value propositions. I always have a minimum of 5 per category. Every single one of these can be an angle, right? Let's say I want to create my creatives around people who want deep hydration for visibly plump skin. That's one angle. Second angle, I want to go after people who only want the glass skin effect. Third angle, I want to go after people who have really sensitive skin. right? And they're very sensitive to other products. Fourth, I want to go after people who want glass skin overnight, like people who are just lazy. They don't want to do a 10-step routine. They just want something they can do overnight and they're done. Fifth angle, I might do something that's about how it stays in place as I'm wearing it. I might do a before and after, or I might do a compare and contrast us versus them against other sheet masks that just completely fly off your face, right? All 5 of those are potential angles. Same thing with mask desires, benefits, and pain points. Those are my favorite places to start. You can pick pretty much any starting point. What I would strongly recommend is you either go value propositions, mask desires, benefits, pain points, or purchase prompts. Really, like, all of these are viable, but you always want to start, in my opinion, with the ones that show up the first, because they're the largest market and the largest audience if they're showing up the most frequently. Okay. So let's say I want to pick the glass skin effect after use. That is the central focus that I want all of these creatives. That's basically like the end goal of my creatives that I'm going to make, is I want them all to go after this angle of people who want glass skin after they use the mask, right? So I've selected, value proposition here, which was the glass skin effect. Okay. Then I just create a simple marketing hypothesis, nothing crazy complex, right? All this does is basically creates a testable statement that can either be proven or disproven. We basically want to make sure that once we've decided on the thing, we have a specific hypothesis in mind that's going to allow us to, we can go back to the hypothesis after we get the results to see if whether or not what we tested worked or failed. So we know we've selected our angle, and now we go, I'm going to test a batch of creatives that leverage, in this example, the desire for glass skin. It's something that can be as simple as that. So that way, depending on the results, you'll be able to make a conclusion about this hypothesis and whether or not this desire for glass skin is something that works, that you want to do more of, or something that doesn't work, that you want to do less of, right? And it's way more complex than that. That's a gross oversimplification, but I'm trying to simplify this so you can get the core fundamentals of this process down. Now, once you've created the marketing hypothesis, at the end of step 1, you now have your angle, okay? Now that we have our angle of getting the glass skin effect after the use, we know the what. It's time to then move on to step number 2, which is deciding on the how. And the how is essentially the format. What visuals, text, and audio do we want to use to communicate the what? That is it, okay? Now, the core of my strategy is diversity. Facebook heavily rewards creative diversity, which basically just means having multiple different types of formats and content styles in your ad account. So our goal is to produce a wide range of creatives that don't resemble one another while helping us target different audience segments and preventing ad fatigue. And I want to give a huge shout out to, I believe his name is Ash at Obvi, for putting together and basically writing the roadmap on how to structure creative diversity. And this is pulled directly from one of his tweets. And it's a system that I continuously use for myself when trying to run and come up with ads to create. So we're going to categorize our ads into 4 main types, right? First of all, we have statics and videos. And then within static and video, we have 2 kind of content styles. We've got static lo-fi, static polish, video lo-fi, video polish. For the purposes of simplifying this as easily as possible, lo-fi content is anything that's shot on iPhone or does not have to be paid for to be taken. Polished is anything shot in a studio or that you'd have to pay with an expensive camera to shoot. Very simple. Lo-fi, shot on iPhone. That's it. Our goal is to test 30 to 50 creatives every single week and monitor the performance. This is my cadence that I like to go with. Launch on Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, come up with ideas. Create, research, ideate, create the concepts. This is how you can hit 30 to 50 creatives every single week. If that sounds like a lot, it's honestly not. I'm going to show you how easy it is to hit that quota in this video as well. And then by focusing on a diverse group of content, we're going to carefully identify which creatives resonate the most with our audience. And then we can go back and then take those learnings into the next batch of creatives. So let's say I test this angle. I have 30 ads that are all using this format. Let's say 10 of them work, 20 of them don't. I want to do more like the 10 that worked and less like the 20 that didn't. Very simple. Okay. So from these formats that you have here, because we have static and video, you've selected your angle. Then you're going to choose at least 3 formats that you want to test. Okay. On the static side, we have a whole bunch of different ads that you could create. Lifestyle banner ads, UGC banner ads, render banner ads, review ads, problem solution, before and after, news media. There are way more than this, by the way, but just to give you just 7 that I think any ad account can scale with these are the ones to go after. And we'll go over some examples very shortly here. Then on the video side, we have the frameworks that I've covered multiple times in multiple previous videos as well. We've got UGC mashups, UGC testimonial, which is basically just the unedited, piece of UGC that you're going to throw into the mashup. Problem, agitate, solution framework, the unique mechanism framework, and then the sales framework. Okay. You choose your angle. You pick 3 formats that you want to test. Minimum of 3, no less than 3. 3 formats for every single angle that you want to test. That's how you maximize your chance of success in the ad account. Then within each of these formats, there is room for variation. Okay. So you can think of it as variation 1, variation 1. And sorry, there's some obnoxiously loud construction in the background right now, so I do apologize for that. Variation 2. Okay. Variation 3, right? And this continues all the way to variation 10, right? You can do 10 variations. I'll show you what those can look like. But as you can see, if you're picking 3 formats, right? You're picking 3 formats. So you choose your angle, you go, I'm going to create lifestyle banner ads, UGC banner ads, and before and after ads. Those are my 3 formats. Well, if I do 10 variations per format, that's 30 ads right there. So you can easily hit your 30 ad quota in a meaningful way. That's not just you just randomly, changing the color of the background image or whatever. No, we're making true alterations to the tones of voice, to the messaging, to be able to have meaningful and intentional tests within our ad account. So let me show you an example now of some variations that we could run. Collagen mask. Okay, cool. So I did an internal training on this inside of my course and community. By the way, if you want access to that, first link in the description to join God Tier Ecom. Price is the lowest that it will ever be. So this is an example of a UGC banner ad. And a banner is just a headline. UGC headline ad. Very simple, okay? This is the headline that I chose. I took this directly from my customer reviews. I'm leveraging the angle of people who want glass skin, or that's the value proposition, that's the angle, that's the central focus for my creative, okay? Here's one variation, variation 1. Variation 2, it's just a simple change in the asset. I've taken one lady who has this, the mask kind of like not yet translucent, and then I have another lady where it's fully translucent, fully absorbed, okay? Here's another one. I thought this image looked very, very like clickbaity. Like you're kind of like, wait, what? Because the mask is sort of visible, but you can't quite see it. So it's almost like, is there something on her face? So you pique that curiosity. Okay. Same headline, different assets. You never know what's going to resonate with people, right? A blonde person might see this and be like, no, that's not for me. A brunette person might see this and be like, nope, that's not me either, right? That's an example. 3 variations right there. All I did, duplicate, swap the image. Boom. That takes 5 seconds. Easy. Easy, easy, easy. Now, a slightly more meaningful example of a variation would be changing the tone of voice or the headline itself, right? So as you can see, this image, I woke up with skin that looked like glass. This image, my fine lines disappeared overnight. This image, my skin feels plump, firm, and glowing. And these are key phrases and key words that our audience knows and uses frequently. Here's another one. Even my pores look smaller by morning. Another keyword there. These glass skin face masks are the real. So hopefully you can see with all the different headline variations that, if I look across these, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 variations of ads, all leveraging the same angle with slight variations in the tones of voice to test out different ways to communicate the same thing that could potentially resonate with one person versus another. And that is how you maximize your chance of success in the ad account. And that is also how you can produce a high quantity of quality creative concepts with meaningful iterations and meaningful areas of focus. Okay, this same concept applies to video, but if you have to pick between the 2 formats to hit your quota of launching as many new creatives as possible, videos take forever to produce. I would rather someone be able to pump out for one angle, 3 different formats with 5 variations each at 15 ads on the static side, than doing 1 video a week or 2 videos a week, right? It takes probably the same amount of time to put together a high quality video as it takes to put together 15 high quality static ads, right? And what matters is the messaging and what you're actually saying, which is why you need to nail that down first, and then the format becomes secondary. Okay? So that is going to do it for this video. Before we conclude, let's do a quick recap of everything that we talked about. We started off first by talking about the overarching focus of this video, which is how to effectively decide what ads you should test next. We talked about the importance of testing a high quantity of concepts, especially if you're on cost caps, because we're placing a very strict parameter in place that prevents Facebook from spending unless it can make you a profit. And the more concepts that you provide, the better chance of success that your campaign has of spending and ultimately delivering you conversions at your target CPA. We also talked about how some of the biggest brands in the world, even at 350 or $500 million in revenue annually, are still emphasizing a high quantity of creative testing ongoing. It's not something that you do for a week or 2 weeks. It's something that you have to do every week, a high volume of quality concepts. We talked about the creative strategy flywheel and how it's a very simple process to go from research, coming up with ideas, creating the ideas, testing them, and then taking what's worked back into the research phase and then doing less of what's not working. And that's basically the entire process that you're going to go through every single week. Then we talked about when deciding what ads should I test next, there's 2 steps. Step number 1, deciding on the angle. We decide on the angle based on value propositions, mass desires, benefits, features, etc. The angle gives our creatives a central focus and one single compelling idea that we want to test, a hyper-targeted message for one specific person. From the angle, we create the marketing hypothesis, which is basically what we're testing and what the expected outcome is from our side. Once we've decided on the angle, we have our central focus for the creatives. We then decide on the format. We know that the core of a strong ad account that scales is creative diversity. Our aim is to produce at least 30 creatives every single week, launch on Monday and Tuesday, prep the next batch for the rest of the week. And once we've decided our angle, we're choosing at least 3 formats, and there's more formats than this, but at least 3 formats that you want to test. Within each of those formats, we're doing several variations, changing the headline or the tone of voice in the headline, maybe changing the actual image, showing a different customer avatar. We're doing several variations, and then we're doing at least 30 creatives every single week. You can mix that in with video, but static is the easiest way to iterate a whole bunch of ads meaningfully that are actually going to drive the needle or move the needle and get you better performance. So that is going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was obviously a much longer video and a little bit more of a higher, a little bit more of an advanced training, to be honest, on this. I was a little hesitant to release this video on this channel because I thought could potentially be a little bit too advanced for complete beginners, but I think it's very important for you to know because this is one of the most common questions that I get asked on YouTube, on Instagram, in my community is what ads do I make next? So hopefully by the end of this video, you have a very clear 2-step process, decide the angle, decide the format, and you know exactly what to do for your next creative test. So that is going to do it for this video, and that about wraps it up. If you guys enjoyed, as always, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Really helps out with the channel, and I read all the comments, so I do appreciate all the recent love and feedback on the channel. Now, if you guys want to get access to my complete masterclass that shows you step-by-step how to build your first profitable dropshipping business and scale to $1,000 a day, check out the first link in the description. Not only are you going to get access to the masterclass, but you're going to get access to 3 weekly Q&As, a free one-on-one coaching call with myself, over $1,000 worth of free shared spy tool accounts, PP ads, FastMoss, Calodata. You get access to the Lumen theme, $200 theme, which is the unlimited license, so it's not cracked. You don't have to worry about getting shut down. On top of that, we have all kinds of resources like connections with agency account providers for Facebook ads, TikTok ads, which hopefully is still around by my next video. So if you want access to all of that, the masterclass, the Q&As, the free one-on-one coaching call, the over $1,000 worth of bonuses, access to the agency account suppliers, access to my private supplier, then check out the first link in the description. There is a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it for 6 days. 12 hours or whatever the time frame up until the last minute. If you hate it, you can get your money back. We're trying to make a push to win the school games currently. So if you join now, it is the lowest price it will ever be. And you'll lock that price in before the price goes up after the school games. So hope you guys enjoyed, got a ton of value out of this. If you want to join, got your ecom, check out the first thing in the description. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Hope you got a ton of value. I've said it like 5 fucking times now. So I'm going to shut up. Have a great rest of the day whenever you're watching this, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.